All right, so today we are diving deep into DeFi, specifically Synthetix V3.
Really exciting stuff.
We're dissecting this DeFi Dad interview, right?
Yeah.
With Kain Warwick, the Synthetix founder, and Noah Litvin.
Yeah, he's one of the core contributors. And what's fascinating here is just how big this upgrade is. I mean, this isn't just like tweaking a few things here and there. This
Wow.
is like they took the whole concept of decentralized trading and were like, scrap it. Let's start over and make it awesome.
Yeah. And I love how Warwick put it. He said, Synthetix V3 is the thing we've been promising for 5 years. 5 years.
Yeah.
This has been a long time coming.
It's been in the works, and you can tell, like, they're aiming for the top, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
They're talking about actually being real competition to centralized exchanges.
Now, that's a bold claim. But speaking of rivals, remember those like clunky and expensive trades on Ethereum?
Oh, yeah.
All those gas fees?
The gas fees, man, that's
Yeah.
been a huge barrier for a lot of people trying to get into it.
For sure.
But this time, they're launching V3 on Base, which is Coinbase's new Layer 2 solution, and that changes everything.
Okay, so for those of us who don't speak fluent blockchain, what does layer 2 even mean? Like, how does it actually make things faster and cheaper?
So think of Base as like this efficiency shortcut, right? It's built on top of the main Ethereum network, and it basically handles a lot of the transaction processing kind of like off to the side, off chain. Then it sort of bundles it all up and only confirms it on that main Ethereum chain every so often.
Okay.
And what that means is less congestion, because everything's not just jammed up on the main chain.
Right.
Faster confirmations, because you're not waiting for everything to go through on the main net, and way, way lower fees for users like you.
So less waiting around, less money wasted on gas fees. It's like, what, Synthetix V3 on Base is like the express lane, but also with like a discount?
Exactly. You got it. It's like the fast pass, less expensive version. And that opens up so many possibilities, especially like for trading strategies, right?
Right.
Where you got to be making trades more frequently.
Yeah,
Before, that would cost you a fortune.
intense. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say, the token in my portfolio.
Oh, here we go.
What's the deal with this tokenomics overhaul that everyone's buzzing about?
This is a big deal, especially if you're holding SNX.
Okay.
Basically, they're shifting things around so that just passively holding your SNX is actually a good strategy now. It makes it way more attractive.
Hold on, so you're telling me I don't have to be like a liquidity provider or staking pro to see some decent returns on my SNX anymore?
Yeah, you don't have to be out there doing all the complicated stuff. They're trying to make Synthetix way more accessible to, like, normal investors.
Gotcha.
And speaking of returns, they're also doing this buyback and burn thing on Base.
Okay.
So basically half of all the trading fees collected on that platform, they're going to use them to buy back SNX and burn it.
Okay, so break this down for me like I'm 5. What does buyback and burn actually do for me as someone who, maybe just holds a little bit of SNX?
Okay, imagine like a company, right? They take some of their profits and they buy back their own shares.
Right.
So what happens? There are fewer shares out there, which can increase the value of the ones that are left right.
Right.
Same principle here. As Synthetix V3 is on Base and making more money, more SNX gets bought back and burned, meaning that just by holding it, yours could be worth more.
So the more people use Synthetix on Base, the more SNX holders could benefit.
Interesting.
Exactly. It's a feedback loop where the platform's success directly translates to potential gains for, like, the average SNX holder.
That's a pretty sweet deal. Now, moving beyond just SNX for a sec, I've got to ask about this whole multi-chain future you mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
Where does that fit in?
So right now, a lot of DeFi protocols, they're kind of stuck on their own blockchains.
Right. They can't really interact with each other. It's like a bunch of separate little ecosystems. But Synthetix V3, it's designed to be deployed across different blockchains, not just one.
So instead of all these separate ecosystems, it's like building bridges between them.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where things get really cool. Imagine a future where you're not stuck. Your assets can move between different blockchains seamlessly. You can take advantage of what each one does best.
That would be revolutionary. It's like having a universal passport for your crypto. You just travel freely between different DeFi destinations. No more borders.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. It's like this whole world opens up. And this idea, this interoperability, it ties directly into Kain Warwick's new project, Infinex.
Ooh, Infinex. Tell me more.
We'll get into that.
Okay, next time.
Yeah.
Okay, so Infinex. What is it? Some kind of like super decentralized exchange.
You could say that. See, Infinex is shooting for this balance. They want the user-friendly stuff like the interface, the features, all that, like you'd get on a centralized exchange.
Okay.
But with that underlying security and transparency and control, the good stuff that comes with decentralization.
Having your cake and eating it too.
Yeah.
But really, how realistic is that? Combining that centralized feel with a decentralized core.
It's a tall order, for
Yeah.
sure. Ambitious. But if anyone can pull it off, it's probably the Synthetix team, right? I mean, they've been pushing the limits of what DeFi can do for a while now. And that's what Kain Warwick gets really interesting. He's not just talking about, competing with the centralized exchanges.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about being better.
That's a bold move. Does he really think decentralized exchanges can actually be better than the big players out there in terms of what they offer, how easy they are to use, all that?
He seems pretty sure of it. And, it's not just him. There's this whole growing sentiment in DeFi that decentralization, it's the future. And it's not just some idealistic thing either. Decentralized exchanges, they have some advantages.
Right.
They're harder to censor, less likely to just go down because one thing breaks.
True. That's always been the big appeal of DeFi, having more control over your own stuff.
Yeah.
But let's be real, centralized exchanges, they're just, easier,
Yeah.
especially for people who aren't blockchain experts.
Yeah, for sure. And DeFi still has a ways to go to make things more user-friendly, make the whole process less intimidating.
I'm waiting for the day I can explain this to my grandma, without her eyes glazing over.
Right. But in all seriousness, it's getting better all the time. And platforms like Infinex, that's them leading the charge.
Okay, so say I'm convinced. Decentralized exchanges, they're the future. Synthetix is leading the way. But what about this whole multi-chain thing we touched on? Where does Solana fit in? Because I feel like that's a whole other conversation.
Solana, yeah. This is where Kain's take is really interesting. Everyone's obsessed with Ethereum, right?
Right.
But Kain's argument is that as more blockchains try to be like Ethereum, to work with it, it actually gives a platform like Solana room to do its own thing.
So while everyone else is trying to copy Ethereum, Solana's just over there doing its thing.
Exactly. And Solana's all about speed and low costs. And their whole way of doing things, their architecture, it's different. It could make them a major player. They're zigging while everyone else is zagging,
And Kain thinks that could be what wins out in the end. That's a pretty interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I usually tune out during Solana talk, but you got me thinking now.
See, that's what I love about these deep dives.
Right.
We can challenge our assumptions, look at things from different angles.
For sure. And speaking of different angles, this whole partnership between Synthetix and Athena, that caught my eye. Decentralized stablecoins. That's a whole other rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah. And it shows that Synthetix is serious about innovation. Remember how we were talking about experimentation and DeFi being so important? Athena is a perfect example.
Okay, remind me, though, what's so special about Athena?
So Athena's building a decentralized stablecoin, and it's over-collateralized. They're using decentralized perpetuals, similar to Synthetix, but they're using ETH as collateral.
So it's like a stablecoin, but backed by ETH instead of... whatever those other stable coins are backed by, which is sometimes a little sketchy. Let's be real.
Exactly. And the really cool part is how they plan to develop it. So at first, they're going to rely on centralized exchanges for liquidity. Makes sense, right? But their goal is to go fully decentralized. And guess who they're partnering with to do it?
Let me guess. Synthetix. Starting to see the connections here.
Exactly. It just shows you how different projects in DeFi can work together, build off each other, and it highlights just how much potential decentralized stablecoins have.
Okay, so we've gone from faster trades to token buybacks, from bridges between blockchains to now decentralized stablecoins. My head's spinning a little, but in a good way. But let's bring it back down to earth for a minute. What does all this actually mean for, the average person?
Right. The million-dollar question. Why should anything care about this DeFi stuff? Well, at its core, it's about you having more control over your money. It's about a more transparent system, a more efficient system, and more accessible for everyone.
Okay, more control over my money, huh?
Yeah.
Like the sound of that. But I gotta be honest, sometimes DeFi feels like it's only for the tech wizards out there, Is this something that, regular people can actually use and see the benefit from?
That's the exciting part, right? We're still early, but the whole point is to make DeFi accessible to everyone, and it's getting there. Look at how much better the interfaces are now compared to just a couple of years ago.
True. It's not all command lines and weird wallets anymore. There's some really nice DeFi apps out there.
Yeah.
But there's still a learning curve.
Oh, definitely. There's still a learning curve, and that's why projects like Synthetix, they're so important. They're not just building the tech, right? They're building those on-ramps to bring more people in. Like with V3, making it cheaper, easier to use, putting it on base, all of that.
And let's not forget about those sweet, sweet passive income opportunities. Earning rewards just for holding my tokens. Sign me up. That's not something you see every day in the old school finance world.
Exactly. And as more people figure that out, discover those opportunities, it's going to explode. We're already seeing traditional finance dipping their toes in the DeFi waters. It's only a matter of time before it's just how things are done.
It does feel like we're on the edge of something big, like really big. But we've got to talk about the other side of that, right? All this talk about changing the world of finance, revolutionizing things. There's got to be some risk involved, right?
Of course, of course. DeFi isn't perfect. Security is still a major concern, right? I mean, we've seen those hacks, those exploits, people losing a lot of money. And then there's regulation, or the lack of it. Governments are still trying to figure out what to do with all of this.
Yeah, that whole regulatory gray area makes me nervous sometimes. It feels like the rules could just change overnight.
It's true, but here's the thing. Innovation, it almost always moves faster than regulation. It's like the early days of the internet, right? It was the Wild West. It took time for the rules to catch up.
That's a good point. So is the takeaway here that DeFi is exciting, but also kind of a gamble?
I'd say it's more like a calculated risk, you
Yeah.
know? The rewards could be huge, but you've got to be smart about it. Do your research, use platforms with a good reputation, and never, ever invest more than you can afford to lose.
Words to live by. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest thing is this, the future of finance. It's being built right now, today. And Synthetix V3 is a prime example of that. Whether you're already deep into DeFi or just starting to learn about it, it's an amazing time to be paying attention.
I totally agree. This deep dive has been quite a ride. Technical stuff, big picture ideas, it's a lot. But you know what? I'm feeling pretty optimistic and kind of excited. I'm not going to lie.
That's what we like to hear. That's the whole point. Spark some curiosity. Give people the knowledge they need. Because at the end of the day, the more you understand these new technologies, the better prepared you'll be for whatever comes next.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some research to do. Decentralized stablecoins. Here I come. Oh, and maybe I'll grab a few SNX tokens while I'm at it.